You ever find yourself thinking about another group of people? Fans of a rival sports team, folks from another city, maybe even a different department at work. And you just wonder, why do they all seem so similar? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. Let's dive into the psychology behind this really powerful feeling.
Yeah, that's a thought most of us have had at some point, right? This feeling that another group is just predictable, interchangeable, almost like they're all one single person. It's a really immediate, powerful sensation, but, as we're about to see, it's also a powerful illusion. And look, the good news is this isn't some personal flaw or a sign that you have a closed mind. It's actually a predictable cognitive illusion, a mental shortcut that our brains take, and it affects every single one of us. It's so common, in fact, that it's got a scientific name.
So let's actually put a formal label on this feeling. What we're talking about here is a well-documented cognitive bias, and honestly, just understanding it is the first step to seeing the world and each other a little more clearly.
So here it is, the Outgroup Homogeneous Bias. The idea itself is pretty simple, but boy, its implications are massive. Basically, within our own group, our in-group, all the little differences feel obvious and important. But when we look at an outgroup, all those individual differences just seem to melt away.
This slide just nails that mental double standard we all have. When we think about us, our own tribe, we see this rich, complicated tapestry of different personalities, unique preferences, countless exceptions to any rule. But when we look at them, our brain just hits the simplify button. It reduces this entire complex group of people down to a single, sweeping generalization. They're all like that.
Okay, so that's the theory. But where does this bias actually pop up in the real world? Let's walk through a few examples that you might just recognize from your own life.
Think about it. How would you describe your own circle of friends? You'd probably talk about each person's unique quirks, their specific opinions, what makes them, them. But when you describe another social circle, say fans of a band you don't like, it's so easy to just go, oh, those people. All that nuance just collapses.
Oh, this happens constantly at work. Your own team is filled with specialists, right? You've got distinct skills, different working styles, but that other team down the hall, they're just the sales department or the folks in accounting. One single label completely erases all the individuals inside it.
And this one is huge. Within our own political or social groups, we're so aware of all the passionate debates and disagreements. It feels incredibly complex. But when we look at a group we disagree with, we often assume they're a monolith, that they all think and believe the exact same thing, no questions asked.
So why does our brain do this? This quote really gets to the heart of it. Our brain is designed to be efficient, to save energy. And one way it does that is by compressing information. Things that are familiar to us get high-definition detail. But distant, unfamiliar things, they get compressed into a blurry, low-resolution mental shortcut.
Now, this might sound like a pretty harmless mental shortcut, just a bit of cognitive efficiency. But this blur, it's not harmless at all. In fact, it's the foundation for some of our most damaging social problems.
Because think about it. When we see a group as a monolith, it becomes incredibly easy to reinforce lazy stereotypes. And that, in turn, fuels prejudice, because we're not judging individuals on their own merits. It crushes our empathy, making it way harder to connect on a human level. From there, it can even be used to justify unfair treatment. And ultimately, it just deepens the social divides between all of us.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? When we blur out the details and the differences in other people, we're not just oversimplifying. We're actively cutting the line of human connection and real understanding.
Okay, so we've established it's a powerful, automatic bias. But, and this is important, we are not powerless against it. We can consciously choose to fight back against this blur and bring the world into a much sharper focus. Here's how you do it.
All right, first, make a real conscious effort to interact with people as individuals, not just as representatives of a category. Next, try actively looking for the diversity of opinion within other groups. Seek out their internal debates and disagreements. A big one, catch yourself using words like all or they when you talk about a group. Those are huge red flags for this bias. And finally, just slow down. Resist that instant urge to classify and label people before you even know them.
So ultimately, overcoming this bias really comes down to a single conscious choice that we have to make again and again. The choice to look closer and to challenge our own automatic assumptions.
Every group looks uniform from a distance. But just like a photograph, the closer you get, the more detail and complexity you start to discover. Clear thinking really begins the moment we decide to restore that individuality to everyone.
So this isn't just some intellectual exercise, it's a daily practice. It's a challenge to look past the easy labels. The only question left is, whose complexity will you choose to see today?